win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word bending, birds, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the pressure so clean. So long, better catch a God on the scenes. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean. God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Hello there.
I have my mic on mute. You can't even hear my say my normal good morning. How y'all doing?
I did hear you with your normal good morning. Have you eaten, sir? I don't think you have.
No, I haven't, but I have my juice cup here that says I'm not old, I'm just classic. So I'm good.
I like it. Looks like we're in for a treat today because we have some guests who have never been on the show before, and we're going to be introduced to a couple of new faces and new people, and I'm excited about that. And if you haven't been watching the show, there's this thing around like Craig eating or not eating. It kind of doesn't make a difference, but you might get a different personality depending on if he has or if he hasn't. So depending on his hello or his wonderful or whatever his phrase is coming in, always indicates to me that he has not, either he has or has not eaten. And today I can tell you he has not eaten. So I don't know who you're going to get, but we'll see. I'm excited about the topic today. We are talking about empty nesting. And I kind of added something, Craig, that I didn't tell you about. It's like past, present, and future, because we're all kind of in different spaces. And we had the amazing opportunity to meet the Clarks. And y'all, we got Big Daddy here with us today. He's not usually on the camera. He's usually behind the scenes. So we are going to jump right into the conversation and do some introductions. Would love for you, Clarks, to introduce yourself and what you're looking forward to talking about today with us on this grand old Knight&Craig show.
He wants me to go first. I'm Peggy Clarke, and I've been married to this amazing husband, Rayland. We just celebrated 10 years last week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. Now you guys are in Virginia, and your background both. I went to college with Rayland, so it's easy for me to say, "Oh, he's my friend for years and years." I think Rayland, I think you and I met when I was 18, and
back in the late 80s.
Yeah, that was crazy. 87. As a matter of fact, let's put a date on it. And oh, goodness gracious! And we've been through a lot of stuff through the college years, and it was always great when we found that you and Peggy got together, because Peggy, you're a doctor in this in the field. I guess what we're talking about is a counselor as well. So you and Dr. Knight are very similar in your past.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. And that was one of the things I was excited about too, because I am not a counselor. I am a coach. And so a lot of times we have to distinguish, Peggy, and I'm sure in your practice too, like, this is what I do. I'm a counselor, or I'm a therapist, or I'm a psychiatrist. I'm not this. I can do that, this, and the other. So I was happy to have another voice on the show today where we can bounce some ideas off of each other on how to create strategies for helping people to deal with this empty nesting. And I thought it would be awesome to have my husband. We're celebrating 12 years on the 20th of this month. So we're definitely in that same vein. But he, when we first met, he was already an empty nester. And then when we got married and blended our families together, which is also something we have in common with the Clarks and with Craig, also blended families, which is another topic that we're going to come back to. So y'all might be back for another show. But when we blended our family, he basically, he started over and then we started over together. So emerged 7 and 9-year-old Taylor and Lawrence. And then a few years later emerged Caitlin, who was 10. So our age ranges go from 36 to 10. So there was a period of time where, he was living life and living large. And so I think that's kind of where we picked up the conversation with you, Peggy, sharing about your empty nesting experience and what it was like to reemerge back into a full house. So would love for
Yeah.
you to share.
Yeah, so I have 30-year-old twins. They just turned 30 earlier this month. And as I was sharing with y'all earlier, I was looking forward to my empty nest. As the mother of twins, it was, they say double trouble, double joy. It was a lot to parent
Yeah.
twins, through infancy and toddlerhood and the teenage years. And I have great kids. They didn't really cause me any trouble. However, it's a lot of work to be an active, effective parent. And so I was looking forward to living my life, the things I had put on hold, and rediscovering myself, coming through a divorce when they were 11. So I was looking forward to just having my life without the responsibility day to day of parenting, and was enjoying that empty nest. And when I met this wonderful husband of mine, and so we did blend our families and no longer had an empty nest. Rayland can share with you how old his sons were at the time. But yeah, going from having an empty nest, looking forward to it, which I know some moms are anxious about being an empty nest, but I was looking forward to it. And then it very suddenly changed. My nest filled back up. So.
Yeah. So Rayland, what was that like for you? And talk a little bit about the dynamic of the ages of your children and what that looked like blending at that time.
I think my kids were 12 and 14 at the time, around that age when we got married. But yeah, it was interesting. I have two boys as well. And so just raising them through their adolescent years and bringing a new woman into the equation was a little tricky. But at the same time, I think, and it's a good thing for everybody, especially for young men. They need the right kind of mother figure, I think, for them to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting how both of sets of your families have been able to bring another spouse in and blend them together. Yeah, I had that on the side where I had the kid. I didn't have the kid, so I was the new one coming. So being I guess you said the blender, I guess. That was different because my son I think Shane was 6 when his mother and I got married. So I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out what I was going to do, be his friend, be his dad. And my dad gave me some advice to think about. You can only be one, so pick it. So I chose the dad route, right? Because he's only going to have a few dads in his life and a whole lot of friends probably. Mm-hmm. At this age now, I find I'm the blendee, where I'm looking for the opportunity to blend my family with another person, and possibly even blend her again with if they have kids or not. So that's an interesting dynamic I'm learning from the both of your families and how to navigate that space. So I'm looking for some great help today.
Yeah, but and also, Craig, like the other piece of that is the empty nesting piece where you're like us in that you have some that are out and some that are in. So what's your countdown?
Oh, the countdown is 1 year and 9 months. This is 8 months. This is October, so school year will be ending in June, and Jackson will be a senior next September. Well, excuse me, in June he'll be a senior, and so I'm super excited about that. And to your point, there's some moments where I feel almost like a caged animal, where I can see the emptiness coming. I can see the lack of day-to-day parental responsibilities and having to make every positive choice for my sons and have to be the warden and the police officer and the doctor and the lawyer and the coach and counselor and keep my hands off the neck. Anyway, it's so I have to find that I'm trying to meter that anxiousness, which can sometimes call, I don't know if the right term is anxiety or not. So there's enough of anxiousness where I want Christmas to come when they're all on their own, where I can start my life without having to worry about, did they get home on time? Who didn't get the trash out? Who's going to scoop poop today? Who took the dogs with them? Because I'm not taking them with me, a year and 8 months from now. So it's becoming an interesting headspace for myself to remain the engaged parent without leaving my youngest son at the victim of my excitement to go run off and leave him and run my life. So God is funny, where he knows that I'm in this way. He knows what we're all thinking, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
For my youngest to be struggling with grief at this moment means I've got to have, he's got to have my full attention. And why does he struggle with grief at 16? Well, he was 4 when his mom passed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things he just doesn't remember.
Mm.
And so his 2 middle brothers just went away to college within hours of each other 2 months ago. So that loss, we're finding, dealing with his counselor, is provoking a spark of this loss, and that feeling he had that he couldn't put words to, he's now associating with my mom has gone too. So there's, I don't know, I'm sure you two can help me with the proper term here, the compound loss or whatever you want the proper term is. He's got it. And so we're dealing with the thought of, I don't necessarily want to get up today. So I want to kind of hurry through that, but you can't. So there's a couple of chasms between empty nest for me and today.
And you bring up an interesting point, because I have twins. They left for college within a week or 2 of each other. And then I went and did everything they say not to do all at once. I quit my job, I sold my house, and I launched my kids both at the same time off to college. Wow. And so that's very different than one at a time, and kind of getting used to the change in dynamic. Yeah. And they may have had some separation anxiety from one another also. And that's kind of what I heard you say about your son, is both his brothers also left. They're still living with God, and yet they're not there day to day. So it is a lot of different types of losses all at once.
Yeah.
The funny thing, I just want to piggyback on what she said, was the funny thing is, shortly after the kids went off to college, her kids went off to college, in comes Mr. Clarke stepping into the picture. I think it's been a year or 2, something like that. Yeah. And so it was like a whole new dynamic. She went from being an empty nester to me coming in. And I actually have 3 sons. And Craig, to piggyback off of what you said, we're dealing with grief as well, because my oldest son, who was 31 at the time, he passed away. A type 2 diabetic, passed away last year. So we're still grieving, his death and his loss. And, me, and I also find that my sons actually seem to want to, be a lot closer to me since then too. They've been reaching out a little more. We're planning get-togethers, celebrating birthdays coming up here soon, which is something we haven't been doing since we've been in different states. So now we're making a point. We're growing a little bit closer, and it's the dynamic of I'll just say this: the dynamic of the empty nest it's changing. It doesn't stay the same for us, especially with dealing with this grief situation with their older brother passing away last year.
You all are all touching on a lot of things, and I would love to hear Steve's voice. I know for me, the loss that I'm grieving right now is my father. Passed away in 2007, so we're celebrating 17 years of his passing, but this is also the same month of his birthday. His birthday would have been the 14th. And then intentionally, it's also the time that we set aside to actually have our wedding. My mom's birthday is this month. So there's like this roller coaster, and about the cycle of grief, Peggy. And so it's one of those things where we are not only grieving the loss, the physical death, but also in being divorced. I think there was a portion of that grieving the living as well, which Craig and I have talked about on the show, but grieving the living where him being an empty nester and going from single parent to married to now having kids, there was some loss that had to be grieved. And how do you navigate your kids through that? So I would love for you to share your process of entering into a new nest, if you will.
So I was empty nester for 17 years before Shell and I came together. So it was, and I was never really a full empty nest. My older kids kept looping back around and stayed with me for a while. So there was never a fully an empty nest, but I was empty nesting. And then and then to have my nest filled back up when I was blessed with Michelle and the boys, and I knew the first time that we came together, when we came together on an actual date, that that this woman, I needed to dive deeper into knowing who she was, because what I experienced when we went to Julian with all the kids came together. We all went to Julian and played in the snow, and had met my first grandchild or second grandchild. But meeting him for the first time, he was a baby, and her nurturing nature of how she just embraced. The baby couldn't go down on the slopes and slides and stuff, and Mama Shell was sitting there and I knew it. I was going to leave San Diego and get up out of here, and I said, you know what? And I retracted my. I had already given notice at my job sent because I was leaving, and then we came together. So the nest being back full again, sometimes it's a little much, because I did have that solitude, or not solid. I guess solitude would be good. I did have that my own solitude where I could just defrag and not worry about anything going on. And then now, it's not that I don't have that. It's more that there's just so much going on, that our life is life, and so we're just going. And sometimes I got to pump the brakes and said, "Whoa. Yeah, I need some me time right now, because I'm too much." So that's it.
That's something that you were talking about too, Peggy. Yeah, thank you. That's something that you were talking about too, is like getting into a routine. I'm looking forward to to being an empty nester and celebrating all the great things that my kids have done, all the things that I've been able to impart. And Rayland, you were saying too about coming together and having that intentionality. So what does that look like for you two together? Like finding the balance of getting your own time that you're used to, and then yet still being there for the older kids and coming together with intentionality.
Well, they weren't with us every day in the beginning, so we still had a rhythm of time with them and time where it was just us. So that was super helpful. Towards the end of their teenage years, though, they were with us all the time at one point for a season. And so, yeah, they were older, so more independent, kind of like what you were saying before, Craig, about you've got, older kids who can drive now and they have activities, and you're not spending your life chauffeuring everybody anymore. And so, they can still be semi-independent. So you at least have pockets of time to just connect with one another without having children there or being in the role of a parent. You can be in the role of just husband and wife, so that's always a blessing.
I wanted to say this just on a lighter note, since we're so casual here, Craig. I actually do enjoy being able to run around the house naked from time to time.
Yes, it's being recorded.
That's as far as I'm going to go with it. But yeah, I was going to say that it's nice to have the freedom to roam and inside the house and outside, and not be restrictions and time restrictions and all that.
Yeah.
Just be free to live your life. But at the same time, I'm looking at this tragedy that we just experienced last year as an opportunity for us to rebond. You know what I mean? Hopefully, things are never perfect, right? When your relationships, but it's an opportunity for us to grow closer together. And then once we finish reconnecting with the children, it's almost like having grandkids. You have a great time with them when they're there. You reconnect with them. You call them rotten. Then you leave. You go back to freedom, and your independence, and they take care of the kids. They're responsible for themselves and their kids again. So I'm looking at it like that.
I'll share a funny story about some friends. People say a friend of mine, but it really is some friends who both daughters were grown and out of the house. Well, they were still in the house, but just gone more often, and were home from college. And so, they were being adults, enjoying each other, and the kids show up unexpected. And they were like, hey, that's what happens when you're an empty nester. So you might want to call, let us know you're coming home, or knock first, because this is what we're doing now.
Absolutely. No, definitely call. Do not just show up. And that's what school is for. That's what the 8 hours at school is for. Because I enjoy a good cool breeze every now and again, hitting my back and being outside. I was outside the other day on the porch, and he was like, "Babe, there's a car over there." I said, "I don't care about the people." So it is what it is. And so, yeah, knocking, respecting, calling, sending. We tell our kids all the time, you're welcome to come, holidays or anything like that. But if you're flying in from somewhere, we need to see your return flight. And grandkids are not allowed to stay unless they can go to the bathroom and take care of themselves. Nana will take care of them while they're here. I will cook, I will clean, I will do it all. But you cannot spend the night unless you can take care of yourself, because my goal was not to have any kids after 35. That was my personal goal, because I wanted to reclaim my life when I was 40. And so since I turned 40 with him, I definitely wanted to be able to enjoy life as a full grown adult, doing adult things, living the life that we were dreaming for ourselves and actualizing that, because what else are we doing this for?
Yeah. It's funny. I love it all. And Rayland, you said empty nesting changes. I love that, because I've told my boys since probably 3 to 5 years or so after their mom dies, I said, look, I'm going to marry again at some point, but until now and that time when y'all are 18 and out of my house, I'm going to get me an RV. I'm going to do like Peggy. I'm going to sell my junk. I'm going to get one of these analog flip phones that had no GPS. I'm out of here, because I had been so wrestling. I don't want to add any power to these words, but I had struggled with the daily parenting all the time, and the decision overload I was having, that I needed a break, because being the only parent for the last 11 years, there were not, well, that's probably not true, but I was not allowing myself to take advantage of enough time for the mental health and recharge, because I could have found it. I just was choosing not to entrust the children with other people as some type of red badge of courage. Oh, look, see what I did. And I don't know why. That's just the way I chose to do my life. And so needing that was always the running joke. I'm gonna get an RV and I'm gonna be out here for a little fancy free, and I'll check in with me. But
words have power. There's something interesting, that you have the intention to get remarried. And so you could have an empty nest like Steve and get remarried, and you just never know what happens. Sure. I remember after I was divorced, I was talking with my pastor and saying, I don't want to remarry until my kids are 18. And he said, but if you marry the right person, wouldn't you want that influence for your children? And so that opened my eyes, to, I still don't, I still think there's a lot of challenges, that it's sometimes simpler to just wait till they're 18, but then you have that solo parenting without someone who cares to be an influence and to be a help for you as well. So it's kind of, you put it in the Lord's hands and trust his timing. But yeah, that opened my eyes to, I don't have to be so rigid with the right person. It's a blessing, as a therapist, and I've seen it all. My biggest concern, is you don't want to send your kids to just anybody's house and have just anybody around your kids, but that puts a burden on you as well to be the 24/7 solo parent if you can't trust other people to help you.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. So Steve, how did you? Sorry.
Even so much though, when I was dating, I didn't bring women around my kids. I didn't. I mean, I would date outside the house, but wouldn't bring them around my kids. They wouldn't. In fact, for the longest, a lot of the people that I would date with,
it was that many,
didn't even know. They didn't even know I had kids, because I wouldn't allow them to meet my kids. Even after I raised them up you know, from the time my now 32-year-old was, and he was still in diapers when I took full custody of the kids, and I raised them up through their whole until they were gone, and then I was fully
single parent.
Yeah, and I was then I was an empty nester for a while, and was out in the dating pool, but it didn't, and it didn't resonate to me that that I was an empty nester. I just thought, oh, no, okay, now the kids are gone. Now I can actually have more freedom to bring a date to my house, or because really I didn't trust women. I went through 2 really bad, terrible divorces, and I didn't trust women to be around them, and even around their own mother, because she was a violent woman. So it took me a while and 17, 18 years of being out there in it before I even. And I had no intention of remarrying. I had no intention of remarrying, but I met her, and we bonded. I needed her in my life. Her life makes my life so much better. Her being in my life makes my life so much better.
And I love today's discussion too. And I know the topic is empty nesting, but you really don't have a full nest, right, until you have a complete relationship, right? So the encouragement I find is that the two of you all have come from situations with previous relationships, but you took the risk. And I love something that I think Rayland said last when we were doing our tragedy call, is that take risks and obey God. And I think that's what makes even the whole empty nesting, re-nesting if necessary, or whatever it takes to nest all makes sense, is because God is at the center of what we're doing. And even if you don't believe, if you're watching the show, you don't believe, your life it is orchestrated. It's not just this random act of whatever happens. And so that's what I really find is really great, is that you guys took the risk, you walked it out, and you're constantly working it out together. So I think it's amazing.
I think what you were saying earlier, Craig, about like getting off the grid and getting that motor RV, getting you a little flip phone. That's actually what he was doing when I met him. He was going back to Minnesota to have a third back surgery, but at the end of the day, he had sold all of his worldly goods, donated some stuff to my church, and literally was living in an RV, preparing to drive across country. And then after that surgery, he was going to do whatever he wanted to do, because he had that option. And to Rayland's point that you pointed out, it's like when you're connected to your source, when you're connected to God, or you're connected to whatever that higher power is, whatever you call that, for us as God, when you're connected to God and he speaks and he says, no, go left instead of right, or go right instead of left, and you listen to that, the outcome is what probably he had been, what we have talked about subsequently as what we have been dreaming about, being in these whole nest relationships, and having the family and being able to travel and being able to impart, wisdom into your sons, and being able to be there as a full-time parent. We were able to accomplish that. Now, has it always been the straight and narrow? No, it's been some windy roads, but it's been better together. And knowing what we want, and having those previous experiences that go, you know what, if it wasn't all bad. Now, number 2 was just all bad. I ain't gonna lie. Number 2 was just all bad. But it wasn't all bad. And what we learned from those bad is what we want and what we don't want. So how do we implement the best life that we can and execute on the plan that God has for us, instead of just being resistant? So I'm talking about risk. And being willing to love again, but mostly being willing to trust that what we're doing is right this time.
Yeah. And I have a question for the group, because I'm in that approaching empty nesting, right? And I know you guys have been there, done that, and redone it. When you're approaching that and you find these huge gaps of time now where it feels like empty, because right now my house has been empty for like the last hour and a half, and it's only 9 o'clock in the Pacific time, right? So in my day is empty until anybody else shows up from school 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, unless it's sports at 6, 7, 8 in the afternoon or evening, coming in from work, other school. It feels like empty nesting for me right now. How do you ever find yourself kind of wondering what to do with your time and yourself? Because I've been a caregiver for so long. When the late wife was sick, and then, an active parent of 5 sons, I've been caring for someone for a long time, and it takes, I'm sure there's a social behavioral science term or whatever. It takes some time to get out of that. How do you guys ever find yourself in that space sometime, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a dream, to be in the house by yourself till 3 o'clock. That's like goals. So
I cherish this time right now.
It's all about perspective, really. But I think, what you're describing has a lot to do with identity. Like how do you identify yourself? What's your primary identity? It's father, and even maybe superseding that is caregiver. Yeah. And so that's something I would just bring to the Lord, because I think we can make some like spiritual vows, like I'll always be here. There are some good spiritual vows, like I'm going to make these commitments, and like God makes a covenant with us and we make vows to one another in marriage. So there are positive, healthy vows. But I would also just self-reflect on that, ask the Lord to search your heart. Have you made an idol even of the role of caregiver? I know you've had a radio career in that role. It's provided some things for you to be this, awesome dad and caregiver. And so you're in a new season and preparing for a new season and holding on to an old role. It's like Moses holding on to his staff, that was his identity and his role. And he got in trouble. He was supposed to speak to the rock, but he went and hid it, with his old identity. And God was giving him a new level of power and authority. And so that's something I would just bring to the Lord. If you're finding it hard to embrace, hey, I got this time now, Lord, what are we doing? Where are we going? What do you want to do in me and through me? It's an opportunity that you can start to get excited about. And it sounds like you might be grieving and mourning the loss of the caregiver role rather than celebrating, here's a season coming to an end, or a season, it's evolving. My role is evolving. I think it gives it a different emotional impact depending how you look at it.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. That's probably a lot of what it is, because I haven't had this new role and care for me since I think Rayland and I, we were in college almost 30 years ago. So that's got to die to let something else grow and become new. So I receive that.
Craig, go ahead.
Craig, it was hard for me to let anybody take care of me. Like I was so used to being alone on my own. I'm almost isolating myself from people, and then to then embrace and then allow her to care, to give me attention like that, like help me or go get a cup of coffee for me or do something like that. It's like I wasn't used to that. So it was just hard for me to let her, and I wasn't a hugger before. I wouldn't let you in that close, but she's broke me of that too.
That's cool.
What were you gonna say, Rayland?
I was just gonna say that I can understand how sometimes, like I was thinking about how hard it is for some people to let go. I've watched so many people struggle with letting their children go and just releasing them to the world once they graduate and all of that, and they have the empty nest. Instead of embracing it, I noticed a lot of people, single and married, a lot of people, they just hold on so tight. It's because I can't even say why, but I'll just say this. In my mind, the most important thing you can do as you approach that stage is to just be obedient and in the moment. That goes for you dealing with your kids. It goes for dealing with allowing other people into your life. it goes for dealing with what am I going to do next? Man, just embrace the moment, and anything God delivers before you, just recognize what if it's coming from him and be obedient with a smile on your face and joy in your heart.
Yeah.
If you take that approach, Craig,
Yeah.
not only will you be receptive to love and light coming into your life, but also I think your kids will see you, growing successfully growing into, this empty nest, man. And it's going to be good. I kind of spoken. We've had conversation on and off about this, and I anticipate really good things happening for you coming down the line. And just be obedient and in the moment. If you keep that in your mind, man, nothing but good things are coming. I can see.
And what you're saying about, your kids are watching, and you're setting an example for them 20 years from now when they'll be empty nesters.
Yeah.
And I had shared before we went on the air about my kids, have given me affirmation when they see me doing stuff. Like I did 8 triathlons. I was shooting for 8 triathlons by the time I turned 50. And part of that time was as an empty nester. So I would train for months and do these triathlons. And, that's part of me having an empty nest. I have the time to do that, hours every day to train. And so they see me doing stuff like that. And that is, I think, a wonderful example for your kids, especially if they do see you doing something that you might be afraid of or uncomfortable with. Isn't that what we tell them? Do it afraid, be strong and very courageous. So for you to be able to say, okay, I'm a little nervous about this empty house and it's so quiet, but hey, sons, here's what I'm doing. These are my goals. This is my struggle and my challenge. I'm going to miss you guys. I've been a dad for, longer than I've been anything else. And I would start talking to them about it, because then you can really set a example and a template for them. Like, what should they do when they're in a new season and they're a little bit anxious, or they've been holding on to something to get their identity from, but God is nudging them to do something new. I think that would be wonderful to be transparent with them a little bit about that.
That'd be amazing. Sound like new show topic for the Raising Men show.
And they could even have guilt. You might have kids that don't leave because they're worried about having to take care of dad. So if dad can show them, listen, I'm good. You don't, because I've seen it happen. Kids who won't leave the nest because they've been the man of the house, which is, we could do a show on that. That's one of my pet peeves, when women make their, little son the man of the house. That's a big burden on them. And so they think they got to stay home and take care of you.
Yeah.
Instead of going out and living their lives.
It's funny you say that right up the top. I hadn't even thought about this part, is that when my oldest son went away to school, he went away to school in September, or actually August. His mother passed February of the same year. And initially he told me right after she passed, he says, Dad, I'm not going away to school, because he'd already received his admissions and scholarship for 4 years of academics from Ohio State University. I mean, they offered him $105,000 to attend their school as a student. And he says, no, Dad, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to, UC Riverside, and I'm going to help you with my brothers. I said, oh no, and not that I didn't love him. It was one of the hardest things I had to do at that moment was to tell him, no, he couldn't stay home with me. I had to go away. And the reason why is because his mother and I wanted him to have the academic life of his dreams. And so that did not have anything to do with staying at home and caring for his brothers. So we began that empty nesting process. And funny, we didn't even talk about this on the strategy call, but just a week ago, and I think I'm still processing, Caden, my 21-year-old, he's decided he's going to culinary school. He wanted to leave as soon as January. And this is October. And I was like, I was stuck when he told me. And so I think what you guys were talking about, holding on to that role, I told him, said, son, why don't you just make sure that you can get into the school and that you can pay for it and live on your own, because it's not in this city. It's going to be an hour or two away. So my nest is getting ready to be like empty for real. And I'm I think everybody's point, I was a little afraid, had a little concern about that. So anyone out there that's watching, if you're becoming an empty nester, you see that road coming really, really quick, and you feel like it's a slippery slope with weeds and mud and wetness, and you think you're just sliding out of control, there are some things that some help for you. And I think that help you stand up and help it not go so fast or feel like it's coming at you all at once, is to understand, like we talked about, your role. And if your identity is wrapped up into being the caregiver, being the parent, having the child, being the helicopter parent hovering around your kids all the time, you have to begin this process now before your house is completely empty, to change your perspective on what you're parenting. Go from parent to coach and help in kind of a general manager, so to speak, of the team. On the field sideline coach for those of you who are into sports.
And there's nothing wrong with embracing those roles. It's just, it's evolving. It's changing.
One of the things that we've talked about, and one of the pieces of clarity that I've had, is that the titles of relationships breed expectation, right? Yeah. And so in our own identity and finding out who we really are, getting clear on that can help us help people and help the relationships that we have to be successful. And you made a point, Peggy, about the mom who makes her son the father of the man of the house. And so for me, when I was sharing on the strategy session about my sons and being a single parent, I learned a long time ago I shouldn't say single mother, because that has a different connotation, but a single parent after divorce I knew that I wasn't a man, and I knew I couldn't raise my sons to be men. What I wanted for them was to help make them responsible and take out the trash, be gentlemen. So I dated them. I took them out when I would get paid. I would take them to a restaurant like Olive Garden, and we would set the table at night, and they would open up the door. To this day, I don't touch a door. I don't take out the trash. And so I didn't want them to replace their father, their bio dad, or my husband, but I thought it was important. Where it became a chat for them to learn what I thought a man does. And where that became a challenge was our communication when dad came along and is a man and was able to take care of and was able to do, they were still communicating with me, and I was holding on to the control of communicating, and nothing happens in this house without me knowing, kind of a thing, because that's the way we survived. So in finding out my true identity, and that I could love, and that a man, my husband, could be like the father that I had in the home, meaning not just a caregiver, but be emotionally present, be the provider, the protector, be the man, and teach my sons how to be a man, then I had to change my own identity and recognize, and this is definitely something I talk about in my practice, of this testosterone or this manly behavior that comes up sometimes. Well, what I've witnessed and what I've experienced in a single parent as a woman, trying to play two roles that I was never intended to play. So re-identifying with the feminine part of me, not that I can't be strong and courageous and go pick up a hammer and do some typical, stereotypical manly things, but my character, my presence has to be the balance of what God intended me to be, which is a helper, which is a supporter, which is a nurturer. And without me letting go in order to receive, I had to let go of that old identity, the hurt shell, the hurt self, I'm going to make it at any cost. Not that perseverance is not important, but the attitude in which I had behind that. A man is never going to do this to me again. I'm never going to be that, and how that could perpetuate and be what I was sharing with my kids unintentionally from a hurt place instead of a healed place. So letting go of that old identity is really important, to receive and to be open to become who we really are.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, really, when we talk about empty nesting. It's so It's so blended. It's like gumbo. It's like Rayland, you said, it
Mhm.
changes. It's not just the fact that your kids don't live here anymore, like the song would say, with song lyric
Let
guy.
them live here
But
anymore.
it's not that they don't
Mhm.
live in your. I guess it's they don't not that they don't live in your heart and occupy space in your mind. Still, it's just they don't live in your presence 24 hours a day. And I think that's where sometimes people get themselves caught up. And even with myself being a widower, that's the difference between the divorce side. It's in my case, it's a grieving side loss that I never would have imagined being affiliated with the fact that they just one kid's like 30 minutes away and the other kid's
Mhm.
2.5 hours away, and my body still processes as loss. But it's just I have to understand, well, no, it's just not lost. They're just not here. Yeah, it's the loss. It's
Mhm.
being able to then change the perspective and agree with, okay, it is lost. Let's grieve it. Let's roll through it and not deny ourselves the feeling through it.
Sure.
In fact, we're coming up on our first holiday celebration, which will be Thanksgiving, and it'll be the first time that likely everybody's going to be in the same space again for the first time in a few months. And that already is becoming an interesting cycle for us because I've been sending out messages. Hey, who's
Mhm.
coming home? Who's not? Just let me know. I get it. If you're working, I get it. But at least let me know so I can prepare a living space because I took down, I did a thing, Peggy. So when
Mhm.
the two boys, well, one boy, Evan, used to share rooms with the youngest. So
Mhm.
he didn't have a space. I let Jackson have his own room now. So
Mhm.
Evan doesn't really have a designated space.
Mhm.
I took Ryan's room and I turned it into the guest room. And I told them before they left, that's going to be the swing space for anyone who comes home. The two of you
Mhm.
that come can share. It's the base of operations, but you always have a home no matter where I am, even if it's on the beach or under a bridge.
In an
Our
RV.
I want to make sure that they know, but the issue is they're taking so long to respond. I asked for dinner menu, I had options. I asked for when you're coming, or if you are, and I said, we're also to another event the night before, so I'm like, hey, I need to make sure that she knows that you're coming or you're not, and so that's just funny. Now I'm like, taking them so long to respond to me. Don't they know? Well, I'm trying to
You know,
calm
Craig.
down. So.
It's a lot to
You know,
process.
I want to say one thing about you, man. Just the respect and admiration I have for you over the years. I think this is the right form to say it because
Mhm.
not only have you, I'd say, kind of done it publicly too, with sharing so many of the things that have happened, you know, through your radio shows and publicly, on social media. It's just I think you really should feel good about the work you've done with your young men
Mhm.
and sharing it with everybody too. It really is inspirational, man. For to see your young men grow, your boys grow into positive, strong young men, and I love it, man. I think you've been an inspiration to a lot of people. I know you have to me, but I think you have
Mhm.
to a lot of people, and you should feel good about it. It should be a rewarding feeling. It's Thanksgiving coming up, knowing that you've it's been a job well done. I think in my eyes and
Mhm.
many others, I would say job well done, my friend.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. It's I'm working on that part, you
Yeah,
know.
just receive it, Craig, because that's a fact that I'm stating. It's not how you see yourself or how other
Mhm.
people see you. I'm stating a fact, and
Mhm.
everybody, I think that it's a beautiful thing the way God has used you and you've been receptive and obedient. And it's been difficult. I know it's been difficult, but the empty nest is about to get beautiful, even more beautiful for you, my friend. So enjoy it and receive all that. Receive the
Yeah,
blessing.
I appreciate it. I receive that. I receive that. So going into the end of the year show, helping people empty nest going to holidays.
Mhm.
What in the world? It's a gift, right?
It is.
So how do any words that probably as we're closer, it's coming close to the time that show to end. Give us words of wisdom, each family group. Give some pearls of wisdom about empty nesting, help people understand what the gift is. It's not, and then I guess for me, if I start for me, I'm finding out that it's not just a gift that I get; it's a gift that I get to give.
Mhm.
And so I get to give myself the gift of peace and support that I've given to other people. And then you also get to give other people, my sons, the gift of being adults to be able to be self-supported without the helicopter dad.
Yeah.
So do that and be excited about that.
Yeah.
Start with our guests. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always say this was what it was all about, wasn't it? To raise healthy, well-functioning citizens, and human beings. And like Rayland is saying, giving you your flowers now, this is what it's all about. To, like, you could say culturally, different cultures have extended families until their adult children get married, and then even then they might all stay together, and that's fine too. But on some level, even if they don't physically leave the house, you're launching your kids into adulthood, even if they still live with you, even if they have their wives with you and your grandchildren, they still have to be in a role, like Michelle was saying, training up her sons as best she could as a woman. I used to say the same thing to my son, Michelle. I can't teach you how to be a man, but I can tell you things women like from their man. Like I like my man to open the door. So you'll have a woman, a wife one day who'll like that too. And Absolutely. So you're training up your children in the way they should go, and whether they leave the house or not physically, or a lot of kids do come back just because of the economy these days. And that's okay too. But you're training them to be functioning adults in this world, and that should be celebrated. Yeah. And it really does break my heart when people grieve that. Yes, it's an adjustment, and you have to get used to them not being physically present. Mm-hmm. And you're in a new role, they're adults now, they do make their own decisions. It's such an honor when my adult kids come back and ask for my advice or my opinion or my perspective. That means so much to me. I can't tell them what to do anymore, but that they're interested in my opinion or perspective is something to be celebrated. Yeah. So I would love to leave the viewers who are approaching empty nesting or struggling with it, that you did what you were supposed to do, and you should celebrate that, and then look for what opportunity does this give you to grow in a new season and your children, because now they're in a new season for even more growth, and I think all of that should be celebrated.
And I'll piggyback on what Peggy's saying. My advice is to just trust God as you release your young adults. Trust God that He'll continue to take care of them, and that they'll grow with Him and grow closer to God as they come to their own lives, as they live their own lives, and He'll trust that He'll take care of you as well. Believe in your heart and your mind that God is there for you, and He's going to guide you in the right direction as well. So just receive His blessing, stay in the moment, and trust God. That's my advice, plain and simple.
That's it.
Big Daddy?
For me, I think I'm actually looking forward to another opportunity to have an empty nest. Caitlin's 10. It's going to be, so I got another 8 years at least, but I don't think that they're going to be leaving the crime scene anytime soon. They're just going to be, that I think they're always going to be coming back and forth and back and forth. So, but I do look forward to the empty nest. Like there's days that I will, especially now, the kids and the adults are all at school doing the work, and the house is empty and it's quiet. And I enjoy being able to surprise my wife and bring her a cup of coffee butt naked. I love it. I love to be able to, because I'll do it to her when she's on camera with someone and it's facing.
So is that your advice? Show up with a butt naked?
Show up butt naked with a cup of coffee, brother. That's the way to live your life.
I like that.
But seriously, I love the family unit. I'm all about the family unit, but I think we've done our job. We've raised them up. We've been imparted in them, and now it's just fly and be free. And now go have your own life. It is. It's go have your own life. We don't let our kids just drop by and surprise us. Oh, I'm here. No, it doesn't happen. We enjoy it. Because, I mean, if you think about it, we're still kind of newlyweds. We've been together 12 years, but we're still kind of newlyweds. So I want to enjoy, chase my wife around the house. And if I,
you keep coming back to this.
I know,
We're close.
but our daughter, she has her alone. I can't wait till 9 o'clock till she goes to her own bed.
That's what I'm talking about.
I can't wait. I mean, and sometimes I'm like, are you going to go to bed? Are you going to go to bed? Because I want some alone time with mommy, And so, that's it. That's all I got.
I love it. I love it. The conversation has really been rich. And I think one piece of heart that resonates with me most is use this time as a way to identify to Craig and Peggy and Rayland's point, before you get to the empty nest, be thinking about the things that you want to do, because our identity is wrapped up in so much of what you were saying. So if it's a triathlon, if it's bringing your spouse a cup of coffee naked, if it's, starting your own radio show, if it's reading, hours, if it's whatever it is, I think that it's important for our viewers and our listeners to know that finding your own identity outside of that piece that consumes the majority of our life after we make a decision to have a child, reconnecting with self. And if you do have a spouse, it's reconnecting with self and that person, and using that as a joy of exploring and figuring out who I want to be with this new person based on who they want to be, and reconnecting together. And Craig, in your space of wanting to explore, finding that next person, that next perfect, being for you, it's really identifying what you want to do. So you're bringing your best version of you to yourself and to that next person, because these times are changing. They are challenging. Life is challenging in general, but I think that there's a joy in rediscovering and being open and being willing to listen to your heart and listen to your head, and doing those things that make us feel really good. So we definitely want to hear your feedback about today's show. As always, you can follow us on Instagram, all of our social media, YouTube, at the Knight&Craig Show. That's Knight and A-N-D Craig. And then, of course, if you have topic ideas or want to join us exploring a topic, you can always reach out to us at the Knight&Craig Show at gmail.com. Knight&Craig Show at gmail.com. So we're always open, and this is a safe place for us to explore and for us to live, reconnect, and to enjoy life together. So great.
Love y'all. Clarks, thanks for joining us. We're glad you guys were here. Hopefully you guys will want to be able to come back again and enjoy our time. It's been such a rich conversation. Oh my goodness. Well, all I can say is this: y'all stay out of trouble, and we'll see you next time.
All right,
Thanks
brother.
for having us.
God bless y'all. Take care.
Bye.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses so clean, so long. You better catch a God, throw him the scenes. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king.